Three friends, Amit, Fiza, and Samir, had been traveling through the mountains on a hiking expedition. The journey had started with excitement filled with laughter and an eagerness to see the beauty of the world beyond their daily lives. But as they ventured deeper into the wild, the weather began to change and dark clouds gathered ominously above. The three friends pushed on, hoping to reach a village or some kind of shelter before the storm hit. But within moments, the first heavy raindrops started. Winds howled, bending the trees in impossible directions. The valley they were crossing was becoming a dangerous place, and the storm showed no sign of stopping. "I think we should take shelter in that cave," Fiza shouted over the roar of the wind, pointing toward a dark opening in the mountainside. Without hesitation, they made their way toward the cave, seeking refuge from the fury of the storm. As they crawled inside, they were greeted by the cool, damp air and the eerie silence of the cave's depths. They huddled together in the darkness, the storm howling outside like a beast trying to tear the world apart. Hours passed, but the storm only intensified. The sound of thunder boomed, and flashes of lightning lit up the sky in blinding streaks. Suddenly, with a deafening crash, the ground trembled beneath them. The entrance to the cave, which had seemed like a safe haven moments ago, was now blocked by a massive landslide. Rocks and debris tumbled down, sealing them inside. They huddled together in the darkness, the storm howling outside like a beast trying to tear the world apart. Hours passed, but the storm only intensified. The sound of thunder boomed, and flashes of lightning lit up the sky in blinding streaks. "We are trapped," Samir exclaimed, his voice shaking. "What are we going to do?" "Don't panic," Amit said, trying to stay calm. Despite his own growing fear, we need to stay focused. "We will think of something." Fiza and Amit scrambled to the entrance, pushing at the rocks, but it was no use. The cave was completely sealed. The air inside began to feel stifling. Their breaths grew short as the oxygen slowly began to run out. "Don't panic," Amit said, trying to stay calm, despite his own growing fear. "We need to stay focused. We will think of something." As the minutes turned into hours, the three friends realized the gravity of their situation. They were running out of time. The storm raged outside, but the cave was silent except for the sound of their breathing. The walls seemed to close in on them as their minds filled with the fear of suffocation. But in that moment of overwhelming despair, Fiza spoke softly. "Let's remember our good deeds," she said, looking at her friends with a serene smile. "The ones we've done, no matter how small. Every good deed is a step toward salvation. Let's pray for strength, for help." Amit nodded slowly. "You're right," he said. "Let's pray." They sat together in the cold, dark cave, their hands joined, hearts full of prayer. Each one began to recall the good deeds they had done in their lives, those moments when they had helped others without expecting anything in return. Times when they had shown kindness, when they had acted with integrity, when they had given of themselves for the sake of others. As each friend recounted their deeds, the cave seemed to respond. The darkness, which had once seemed so oppressive, began to lift just a little. A faint, cool breeze seemed to stir the air, filling their lungs with oxygen. Amit opened his eyes, his voice trembling as he spoke. I think the cave is opening." At first it was imperceptible, just a small gap in the rocks. But as they continued to pray, their hearts focused on the goodness they had shared with the world, the gap grew wider. It was as though the universe, or some higher power, was acknowledging their kindness, rewarding them with a chance to escape. "Keep praying," Fiza urged, her voice full of hope. "We are almost there." The gap widened further. It wasn't much, but it was enough to give them hope. Amit's voice was shaky as he spoke. "Remember the time I helped that old man with his groceries? He couldn't carry them, and I just carried them for him without asking for anything in return." The cave seemed to respond to their words, to their honest and heartfelt prayers. Slowly, the gap in the rock expanded, and a beam of light pierced through the darkness. "I think we can get out," Fiza exclaimed, relief flooding her voice. Finally, with one last push, they crawled through the opening, emerging from the cave into the daylight. The storm had passed, and the valley was bathed in the soft light of the early evening. With a renewed sense of determination, they worked together, pushing aside the loose rocks that had once seemed impossible to move. As they dug, the gap widened, and the storm's roar began to fade, replaced by the fresh, clean air of the mountain outside. That day on, they never forgot the lesson they had learned in the cave, that no act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted, and that in times of darkness, the light of goodness could always guide them to safety.